We have spent so much time over this last week talking about Adam Driver and what villain he might be going to play in the MCU reboot of the X-Men. However, while that's been going on, a bunch of other rumors have come up related to who are going to play the actual X-Men. So I want to talk about them all. And I'm going to start with what I think is the most interesting pick. And it's the one that seems closest to happening. Because there have been rumors this week of a bunch of different actors who've been in the running potentially for Professor Xavier, and there have been a lot of rumors of actors who are potentially in the running to play Rogue. But with those, it's hard to tell who's really being considered for the role. Whereas in this situation, A, we have a very important X-Men, and B, it seems to be down to one guy. So I want to talk about whether or not I think Cooper Hoffman would make a good Cyclops. Now, odds are you know Cooper Hoffman from one of three things. He played Ray in The Long Walk, he played Gary in Licorice Pizza, and he played Dick on Saturday Night. He's been in a handful of other things. He's got a big Greg Araki movie coming out this year called I Want Your Sex. That should be interesting. And then he's got a role in the Luca Guadagnino movie Artificial, which is written by Simon Rich, who did Miracle Workers and Man-Seeking Woman, who I like Simon Rich. That might be fun. I mean, like Luca Guadagnino, obviously, already fun. Andrew Garfield. Listen, I haven't seen this movie. I don't know. Apparently it got distribution, so that's nice. But either way, Cooper Hoffman has a couple of projects coming up that are pretty high profile. He hasn't been acting for all that long. He's only 23 years old. And, as I'm sure everybody knows, he had a famous parent who had an established career in the business. I'm sure that helped him get some of these early roles. Obviously, I'm talking about costume designer Mimi O'Donnell, his mother. He is also the son of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, an incredible actor from movies like Magnolia, The Master, Moneyball, Synecdoche, New York, the third Mission Impossible movie that's not that great, but he's really, really good in it. Along Came Polly, a movie that's also not that great, but he's really, really good in it. Now, Punch Drunk Love, The Big Lebowski, Boogie Nights, Twister, and those Hunger Games movies. He had an incredible career, and specifically a career where he was not always the main character, but he almost always stole the show, whatever movie he was in. He was incredibly memorable. Died in 2014. But like, when Cooper Hoffman showed up on the scene, I, like a lot of people, was like, alright, another child of a Hollywood star. And sure, the child of an incredible actor, but that's not genetic, necessarily. So is this guy up to it? Is he gonna be a good actor? Is he gonna be the kind of great actor that his father was? Or is he gonna coast for a while and then kind of fizzle out? And he's only been acting professionally for 5 years. So I think it's hard to say whether or not he's gonna be the next big thing. But I do think, just from those three performances, Licorice Pizza, Saturday Night, and The Long Walk, I think it's fair to say he's solid. He's not just coasting on his family name. If anything, if he was, he probably wouldn't have done the movie where he had to walk 15 miles a day in real life to film it. He probably would have done easier movies. He probably would have done, well, I guess the one where he has sex with Olivia Wilde. That one comes out soon. But still, like, his first big movie was a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, for which he got a Golden Globe nomination. So I think he's serious, Hollywood takes him seriously, and I'm not shocked that he is rumored to be one of the actors up for a role in this X-Men movie. However, I am a little surprised that it's Cyclops, and I'll tell you why. You probably know who Cyclops is. Scott Summers. He's the leader of the X-Men, one of the most famous characters in Marvel Comics. He's about to play a huge role in Avengers Doomsday. He's obviously been a main player in many X-Men comics, the animated series, 97, Evolution, all the other material. Like, I know there's that scene in Deadpool and Wolverine where Deadpool tells Wolverine,
"But you were an X-Man. That, you were the X-Man."
But that wasn't always the case, and I don't think it necessarily should be, because I think Scott Summers is the X-Man. And I think people are starting to realize that. Also, my cat Mortimer is here with me. He loves talking about Cyclops, because of course, one of his favorite Marvel characters is Cycat, a cat that Mr. Sinister made with the powers of Cyclops. This is a real thing. The Scott Summers story is kinda simple. He's separated from his parents and his brother after his parents die in a plane crash, but not really, because aliens take him. His dad becomes a space pirate guy, and Scott, as he and his younger brother Alex are parachuting out of the plane before it explodes, he uses his optic blasts to cushion their fall. And he has the power to, and we're going to be really specific here because there's like an internet thing that is wrong, although it's made it into some of the official material, so who knows. He can fire percussive optic blasts through his eyes. There was a description that I had heard a while ago about how Cyclops worked. And it was that his eyes were portals to a dimension of pure kinetic energy, known colloquially as the punch dimension. I don't know where that came from, because that is not true, even though you can find it referenced in some Marvel books. Because in reality, Scott's body absorbs sunlight and processes that into optic blasts. It's why, Doesn't happen a lot. If Cyclops is in complete darkness, he doesn't have optic blasts. Isn't that interesting? But Scott was abducted by Mr. Sinister, a character who many people have expected will be in this first X-Men movie, and got involved with the wrong crowd, but was saved by Professor Xavier, who was starting a new team of mutants called the X-Men. So Scott Summers, with the codename Cyclops, was the first X-Men, and he has been, pretty much since the team was created, the leader of the X-Men, except for the couple of times when he's not, or the times when there are two teams. And that's kind of Scott Summers' defining trait. He is a leader in every way that counts. He makes decisions, he cares about the team, he's a master strategist, he's pragmatic, he's good at encouraging his team members. On the battlefield in Marvel Comics, I would say Reed Richards might be the smartest team leader, Captain America might be the best guy, but Cyclops is just overall the best leader. That's not to say he's perfect. For starters, he's not a great boyfriend or husband. Famously, he's been in a relationship for a very long time with Jean Grey, which ended when she died, but he just married her clone until she came back, and then he abandoned the clone and his son, and then the clone turned New York into a demon hellscape. Her name's Madeline Pryor, she's the best. And then later, Scott and Jean had gotten back together, everything was cool, until Scott cheated on Jean Grey with Emma Frost, new teacher at the Xavier Institute. And Scott and Emma stayed together for a while, but even though he's part of one of the more consistent Marvel Comics relationships, he's not great with women. Obviously, morally, like all of the X-Men, Scott is frequently trying to grapple with how to best protect mutant kind. Sometimes that's following Xavier's example, sometimes that's going off and doing his own more radical thing, but he always wants the best for mutants, unless he's empowered by the Phoenix Force and it's kind of making him be a bad guy. But besides that, Scott is one of mutant kind's #1 champions. Like he said, he has close relationships with Jean, Beast, Iceman, Angel, the original First Class, his brother, Havoc. He has a complicated relationship with Wolverine. One of the other X-Men characters who was a leader who really trusts him and believes in him is Storm. Cyclops has a complicated relationship with Magneto. Him, Emma, Magic, and Magneto went off and did their own revolutionary X-Men thing. Honestly, he's been pretty close with Magic since then. They usually end up on the same team. He kinda had this weird flirty thing with Psylocke. He also has a secret brother named Vulcan, who it's not worth getting into right now. And then he has another secret brother called Adam X, I think. I don't even know if he's canon. He has a daughter with Jean in the future named Rachel, and he has a son with Madeline who will grow up in the future to be Cable. He's an incredibly important part of this team, and it is a shame, as a fan of the X-Men and a fan of Cyclops, that in the movies, he never really got his moments. It is not surprising that between Hugh Jackman Wolverine and Halle Berry Storm, James Marsden Cyclops sort of faded into the wallpaper. Not to say it wasn't fun, but he spends the second movie kidnapped, but he's barely in the third movie because he wanted to go do Superman Returns. Then, after a cameo in X-Men Origins Wolverine, we get a proper Scott reboot in X-Men Apocalypse, where he's played by Ty Sheridan, and they sort of frame him as a bad boy, which doesn't really work, since especially when he's young, when he's on the X-Men, Scott tends to follow the rules. And then that movie just isn't very good. And like a lot of those movies, the new X-Men need to fight for attention against Professor Xavier, Magneto, and Mystique. That version of Cyclops would show up one more time in Dark Phoenix, and while he got a little bit more to do, like curse at Magneto,
If you touch her, I will kill you.
still never felt like Cyclops was getting the amount of attention he deserved. Also, again, that movie's not that great. X-Men 97 has done wonders for the image of Scott Summers, to the point where I think people who watched the show and saw that first episode where Scott was fighting against the Frenzy of Humanity and using his powers to zip around the room, and then later he's using his powers to cut a Sentinel's head off and cushion a fall, it reminded people that Cyclops can be cool. Cyclops isn't just a leader because he's smart, he's also very good at this. And he has a power that's very dynamic. And I think you could tell how the mood has shifted, because Scott was added to Marvel Rivals very recently, but there was a while where other X-Men, like Emma, Magic, Gambit, Rogue had been added, and fans were mad because there wasn't Cyclops, because he deserved to be there. And if you look at some of those early 2000s movies, it is easy to forget that Cyclops is in them. But okay, so Cyclops is almost certainly going to be in this MCU X-Men reboot. We don't know who else, what other characters are in the movie, although I'd say it's a safe bet that a Professor Xavier will be in the movie. There will be a villain. It will probably be Mr. Sinister. Maybe William Stryker. He's also been rumored. I think there's a good chance a couple of the other members of the First Class are involved. Jean, played by, who knows, perhaps some 25-year-old actor that people all know from a Netflix show that we'll be able to talk about more in a couple of weeks. And other characters that have been rumored to be part of this cast. Beast, Rogue, Emma Frost, and then I'm sure there will be some others. Probably a Storm. I wouldn't be surprised if they jump forward to Magic and just skip Colossus, because Magic is really cool. I think it would also make sense if there's either a Shadowcat or a Jubilee, or maybe an Armor on this team as the young POV character. And then part of me thinks they'll put Nightcrawler in just because he's an incredibly popular character. Everybody loves him. But the X-Men team is going to be something like that, and it will almost certainly have a Cyclops, and Cooper Hoffman appears to be the main actor in contention for this role. Now, let's get the first thing out of the way. Cooper Hoffman is not a superhero-looking guy, the same way as other young actors who people think would be good Cyclopses, like Patrick Schwarzenegger, for example. Tall, jacked, classically handsome. Or like Jack Champion from Avatar. While not the exact same kind of guy as Patrick Schwarzenegger, also kind of got that superhero thing going on. He's in great shape, he's got abs, high cheekbones, stuff like that. Cooper Hoffman is not that guy. And I mean that in the most neutral way possible. He just does not currently have that look. And while I think you have a lot of leeway on the way these characters look, I do think there are certain characters that are supposed to have certain traits. Like, for instance, I like a short Wolverine. Movies don't, but I think it's a good idea. I like a bald Xavier. I like an older Magneto. And I think you want a Scott with the body of a superhero, because he's supposed to be the platonic ideal of an X-Man. He is exactly what you expect when you think about a superhero. And that's part of what's interesting about this character. He has always had this role. In the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, Cyclops is a mix between the class president, the homecoming queen, and the captain of the football team. And yet, he doubts himself, he has flaws, that's what makes him so interesting. But like, Cooper Hoffman just doesn't look like that. Now, this has happened before. Actors have been cast in roles like this, and they have done that thing that seems way easier to do now because of all kinds of methods, where they get in superhero shape for the movie. Marvel likes that. It was part of Chris Pratt's deal. It was part of Kumail Nanjiani's deal, even though that character never even took his shirt off. Actors not known for being in incredible shape got in incredible shape for a specific role. And those are roles that I don't think it was necessary for. I think you can have a Star-Lord with a dad bod. I don't think it matters. But Cyclops kind of does. Now, he needs to be tallish because he does have to look down on Wolverine. However, I doubt we'll get a short Wolverine so they can use camera trickery if they want. But like Cyclops' body type, he's supposed to be slim. That is a nickname he is called, and not ironically. He just kind of is that. He's a leader, right? He's a beacon. He's almost like a lighthouse, signaling to mutants that they're safe. So I think, physically, Cooper Hoffman kind of has it. Like, he's not as classically handsome as every other actor out there, but I think he's got the fundamentals. And if he did one of those Hollywood workouts and got in incredible shape, I think he could surprise a lot of people. I also think, when it comes to whether people do or do not look like Cyclops, you do have the added benefit of them wearing either glasses or a visor the entire time. Right? It's like, does Ty Sheridan look like Cyclops? I don't know, maybe a little, but you put that visor on and boom, he's Cyclops. And there's two more important questions here. One, would Cooper Hoffman be a good Cyclops? Could he play that role? And that's where I think the answer is pretty clear. Yes, I do. I think, after The Long Walk, I am convinced that Cooper Hoffman can play a nice, conflicted leader, because that is what that character is in the movie. He isn't an official leader, but he sort of becomes the unofficial leader of these guys as they do this walk. He's looking out for people, making sure nobody falls behind, navigating a lot of different complicated personalities. Do I think that's like a perfect Cyclops audition? Not really, but I think that shows that he can do this. It is not what he's known for. I would say, if anything, his role as Dick in Saturday Night has some Cyclops energy. He's the more rigid, sort of wet blanket to Lauren's more optimistic ambitions. Listen, am I convinced that Cooper Hoffman is a good Cyclops? No, I have not seen him in enough things. Am I convinced he is a bad Cyclops? Absolutely not. I think the most important thing is that he is a good actor and he's young. And that's the part of this that's tricky. Let's say, I don't know, our Jean Grey was in her mid-20s. Let's say 24 as of April 16th. That means we're probably looking at a 24, 25-year-old Cyclops. And we are not lousy with 23-year-old actors who could just pick up this role and do an amazing job. There's some that I understand people are excited about, but finding someone who could potentially fit the look and has the talent to make this character interesting, that's what's important. The other thing that I'm curious about is whether he would want to do this. Cooper Hoffman has not signed up for a big franchise yet. The Long Walk was about as close as you get to that, and that's not a franchise, but at least that's part of like the Stephen King genre. But it is not clear that this is something Cooper Hoffman would want to do. Would he want to get this tied down to a franchise this early in his career? One that may make scheduling the next Paul Thomas Anderson movie difficult. Now, I would argue, as I'm sure a lot of the actors in the Marvel Cinematic Universe do, you can do both. Sebastian Stan has done all kinds of prestige work and at the same time been Bucky Barnes for the last 16 years. The MCU is constantly finding actors who both play specific roles for a very long time and also have more than enough time to do whatever big projects they're interested in. Tom Holland and Jon Bernthal were both in the Odyssey movie. Chris Hemsworth was in a bunch of Oscar-y biopics. Like, it can be done. Like, it's tricky, but I just don't know too much about Cooper Hoffman. Is this something he'd be interested in? I don't think he needs this. I think he's going to have a career either way. So I'm not shocked that his name has come up. I'm a little surprised. And I'm surprised that he seems to be the main name in contention for this role. I think it can work. Is he my first choice? Of course not. I don't even know who my first choice is right now. Because I'm not in love with Patrick Schwarzenegger, or Jack Champion, or Brendan Thwaites, or any of those other guys. I really don't know what I would want for a Cyclops. Maybe that means what we need is somebody a little unconventional. Somebody who's going to make this role their own. And somebody who, if they sign on to this, would give me even more confidence that this is serious, that they read the script or heard the story or whatever and went, you know what, this is going to be something I want to be attached to. And that would be a very good sign. And listen, if you love the X-Men like I do, you love superpowers, you love messy relationships, a lot of fantasy tropes, which reminds me of a video I was watching called Time to Pivot to Romantasy, I guess, by one of my favorite creators, Lindsay Ellis. In it, Lindsay talks about the romantasy genre, which I was fascinated by. I've been hearing about it for years, never really knew what it was. And I think Lindsay's perspective on it as an author who writes about something that's kind of similar is really interesting. I would say it's definitely worth a watch, whether you are a big fan of romantasy or, like me, someone who has heard about it a lot but doesn't really know what it is. And you can find that video along with tons of other videos on this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is a subscription streaming platform that I and a bunch of other YouTubers you probably already love helped to create. First thing that's important, all of our videos go up there early and ad-free. So if you want to be the first person to see one of my Nando V movies or Nando Cut videos, Nebula is for you. And then there are series like Jetlag or Tom Scott's England, where they go up on Nebula a week before they go anywhere else. Then we also have Nebula exclusive series of videos, like Tom Nicholas has a series called Slow News Day. Captain Midnight has a series called Showrunners, where he looks at different people that have created television shows. The first episode is about Rod Serling in The Twilight Zone. The second episode is about Vince Gilligan in Breaking Bad. Looks at the journey of how they got to where they were and how that shaped the series they would showrun. And then Curious Archives Gods and Monsters series looks at these different legendary creatures from religion and mythology and talks about how the ideas of those creatures has evolved over time and they've turned into pop culture characters. So you can find all that great stuff exclusively on Nebula. And a year of Nebula is already a steal at $60 a year. That is $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get Nebula for just $2.50 a month. That is $30 for the year. It's an awesome deal. Go check it out. I guarantee there is a creator you already love who's part of Nebula. And if you spend some time on Nebula, I bet you'll find your new favorite creator. After me, of course. Your second favorite creator because I'm your favorite. Don't correct me. Again, that is go.nebula.tv/thenandocut. Talk about the rest of these rumors as they come up. Until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.